What's up everyone, with the version 1.6 on the horizon, today's character build guide will be for none other than Mondstadt's favorite troublemaking child, Klee. Klee has a really unique playstyle, and today I'm going to cover everything you need to know regarding how to build and play Klee. Doing things a little differently today, I'll start off with your best artifact and weapon options for Klee, then after that I'll cover several different animation cancels that can help squeeze out a bit more DPS, or even just smoothen Klee's gameplay a tiny bit. Also, I know there has been talk about Klee's current state in Genshin Impact and whether you should pull for her or not, but my 2 cents is always going to be the same when it comes to these dilemmas. If you like Klee, pull for her. If you don't like Klee's character or think her gameplay is a little too awkward or difficult for you, you can skip her. I've always preached and will continue to preach that the most important thing in Genshin is having fun with the characters that you like to play. It doesn't matter how bad or how good the community claims these characters are, if you're not having fun playing the characters that you want to build up, then what's the point of playing? Anyways, I'm moving a little off topic now. With that little quip out of the way, let's get this Klee build guide rolling. Immediately, starting off with artifacts, your best in slot for Klee is going to be the 2-set Gladiator with the 2-set Crimson Witch of Flames. This is just your basic generalist set, but it performs wonderfully in all content. Another great generalist set for Klee is the full 4-set Crimson Witch of Flames. Just like the 2-set Glad with the 2-set Crimson Witch, this set provides usefulness in all content. Even though Klee cannot get the full 3 stacks on the Crimson Witch 4 set, it still is one of her better options. This set shines especially if you're using Klee for a vaporized comp with Shang-Chi. If you want other options aside from these two, you can choose the 2-set Noblesse with the 2-set Crimson Witch, or even just the 4-set Wanderer's Troop. Unlike the previous 2 combinations, these sets focus on a specific part of Klee's kit and provide less all-around damage. Wanderers is good because a decent part of Klee's kit focuses on charge attacks, while Noblesse is good because Klee's burst is extremely powerful. As for artifact stats, Klee runs the standard DPS artifacts with attack percent or EM in the hourglass slot, pyro damage bonus in the goblet, and crit rate or crit damage in the circlet slot. For the situations that you want to take EM in the hourglass, you really only want to take it if you have a weapon like Skyward Atlas and can get a ton of attack percent in substats. When you're running EM, keep in mind that you must run a Vaporize or Melt comp to get use out of the Elemental Mastery. As for your substat focus, it should be crit rate, crit damage, elemental mastery, attack percent, and energy recharge. It's really just as simple as that. Klee's artifacts are super easy to grasp, but now we're into weapons, which have a little more diversity in terms of what's viable on Klee. The weapons I list will be in order from best to worst, just like any other of my guide videos. Starting off with your best in slot weapon, we have the Skyward Atlas. We get the most damage with the Skyward Atlas, but the only issue is that Klee doesn't ascend into either crit stat, so if you run Skyward Atlas or any other attack percent weapon for that matter, be sure you have some pretty good artifact rolls to make sure your crit ratio stays healthy. Our second best weapon is Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds. This catalyst does in fact give us crit rate, so it's the best 5-star weapon option if you don't have great artifacts. Not to mention, the passive is also extremely useful for Klee, just like Skyward Atlas's passive. At number 3, we have the R5 Widsith. When this weapon is R5, we can get some ridiculous damage numbers. However, a Widsith that is not refined actually drops down to number 5, and instead Solar Pearl takes the number 4 spot. The reason for this is because Solar Pearl is the most consistent 4-star weapon for Klee, which is why I think only an R5 Widsith outclasses this weapon. If you're really on the fence when it comes to choosing between these 2 catalysts, I suggest taking a look at your artifacts and seeing if you need crit rate or crit damage more. It should be pretty self-explanatory, but take the Widsith over the Solar Pearl if you need crit damage, and vice versa if you need crit rate. Luckily, Klee also has a healthy pool of free-to-play options for weapons as well. At number 6, we have the brand new Dodoko Tails, which is Klee's signature weapon. Just like Skyward Atlas, this weapon does have attack percent as its substat, but the passive was made for Klee's playstyle. We will be able to get this weapon at R5 through the Midsummer Island Adventure event in 1.6, so be on the lookout for that. The next 2 options are both out of the Starglitter shop, which are the Blackcliff Agate and Royal Grimoire. These are solid options, but they are outclassed by some of the previous catalysts that I listed, so try to buy these only if your other catalyst characters are using certain weapons that I listed before. For the last free-to-play option, we have the craftable Mappa Mare at number 9. With this weapon, try your best to build up a unit like Xingqiu to take advantage of the elemental mastery that the weapon gives. Otherwise, if you use Klee as a solo DPS with EM, you'll be missing out on a lot of damage with the elemental mastery. Lastly, we have a few weapon options that are generally outclassed on Klee or serve only as extremely niche weapons. At number 10, we have Memory of Dust. This weapon is almost as good as Scoured Atlas if you have a character like Zhongli. Otherwise, it's not that great since the passive heavily relies on having a shield with about 100% uptime. After that, the Eye of Perception is by far the worst 4-star catalyst, and now that Dodoko Tails has been introduced in the game, this weapon is completely irrelevant on Klee. Sacrificial Fragments is actually a decent 4-star weapon on Klee since the passive is actually pretty easy to proc. The only downside of this weapon is that it has a low base attack and the elemental mastery stat limits your DPS outside of Vape or Melt comps. And lastly, for a super niche pick like Memory of Dust, we have Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers. This catalyst is only for players who want to use Klee as a support with her C2. For those who don't know, Klee's C2 reduces the defense of enemies hit by the little mines placed by her elemental ability. Combining this 23% defense reduction with the 48% attack from TTDS is actually a super powerful combination. Alright, now that you know how to build Klee, let's dive into how to animation cancel on Klee. Beginning with Klee's normal attack, there are two different things you can do. There is a jump cancel and a walk cancel. The jump cancel is super easy. You just normal attack once, then jump right after you input the normal attack. It should look something like this. You can also do a 2-hit jump cancel, which I think does slightly more damage than the 1-hit jump cancel over a long period of time, but I'm not quite sure, so don't quote me on that. It's pretty much the same idea as the previous jump cancel, where instead of jumping after the first attack, you jump after the second attack comes out. The walk cancel is a little bit harder on PC, but for mobile players this should be much easier compared to the jump cancel. For the walk cancel, you want to hold the forward button, then normal attack in a rhythm. The last thing you want to do is spam the normal attack button because that'll initiate the attack chain and not just the first attack. The rhythm itself is really hard for me to explain, but the best indicator of timing is to look at Klee's catalyst. When Klee does her first normal attack, she brings her catalyst to the left side of her. When you hold the forward button and normal attack, the catalyst will appear at the left side of Klee, then immediately disappear. The moment the catalyst disappears, you want to input another normal attack. Hopefully this visual indicator can help you guys get the walk cancel timing down. Now that we know how to do the 2 normal attack cancels, we can move into the cancels for other parts of Klee's kit. The next 2 animation cancels I want to cover are in regards to Klee's charge attack. Klee's gameplay is very dependent on charge attacks thanks to both of her Ascension talents. Animation canceling helps us abuse these bonuses even more. Like most other characters, you can jump or sprint to cancel part of the charge attack animation. Since sprinting and charge attacking both consume stamina, we typically only want to cancel Klee's charge attack with jumping. The charge attack jump cancel is actually really easy. You simply just charge attack, and once you see the big flower appear above Klee's head, you can jump to the side and then rinse and repeat. This animation cancel is not really all that much faster than just straight out spamming charge attacks, but what this allows us to do is reposition Klee without losing out on too much DPS or using too much stamina by sprinting. Klee is a really frail character, so repositioning to avoid damage is very important. For the other charge attack cancel, this one requires us to stand still, but it results in a ton more DPS compared to just standing in place and simply spamming the charge attack. Now, for this animation cancel, before we charge attack, we insert a normal attack. Not only are we doing damage with our normal attack, but this also gives us a chance to obtain a spark that Klee can consume for 50% more charge attack damage and a 100% stamina refund thanks to her Ascension passive. The input for this charge attack cancel is really easy too. You just want to double click the attack button and hold your finger down on the second click rather than release it. The last animation cancel that I want to cover takes both your elemental skill and elemental burst into account. For this one, we animation cancel our normal attack with our elemental ability, then animation cancel the elemental ability with our burst. There really is no complicated input here, it's just a normal attack, then E, then Q. The most important thing to watch for is to make sure that the Jumpty Dumpty bomb from Klee's elemental ability leaves her hands before you use your elemental burst. If you use your Q too early and the bomb is still in Klee's hands, the bomb will just disappear and the damage won't come out. And that should do it for all the Klee animation cancels that I wanted to cover in this video. Everything I wanted to include in the guide portion is also finished, but before I wrap up the video, let me just quickly showcase my Klee build for anyone who's curious as to what my Klee is running. Starting off with my Klee's stats, you could take a look at her attack and elemental mastery right here. And if we go deeper into the hidden stats, we could take a look at her crit rate, crit damage, energy recharge, and pyro damage bonus. For her weapon, we're running the R1 Solar Pearl, and as for her artifacts, we're running the 2-set Crimson Witch of Flames with the 2-set Gladiator's Finale. If we take a look at the artifact substats, this is the Flower, the Feather, the Hourglass, the Goblet, and lastly the Headpiece. Unfortunately for constellations, I only have a C0 Klee, and as for talents, they're at the absolute minimum investment with 6, 6, and 6. Unfortunately, my Klee's damage numbers aren't anything stellar since I just moved my Yanfei's artifacts to Klee to make this video, and that Klee's talents are only leveled up to level 6 as you guys saw when I showcased my own build. If you want to see better Klee numbers, I'm sure you could find another content creator with a pretty strong Klee in comparison to mine. Anyways, if you guys want some closing thoughts on Klee, here are my 2 most important takeaways for Klee's playstyle and teammates while this short clip of Spiral Abyss 12-3 plays out. First things first, you definitely want a shield character to pair with Klee, specifically Diona or Zhongli. These two are powerful shielders that can really help you use the animation cancels that I mentioned before without worrying about dodging every single attack. Second, in regards to the animation cancels, you don't have to master every single one of them. I just wanted to put everything I knew into a single cohesive section that's pretty digestible. The one animation cancel that I'd say is the most important and most practical is definitely the normal attack into a charge attack. It's super easy to use and it increases your DPS by a noticeable amount. Definitely try to utilize that specific cancel if you can. With that, it's time to wrap up the video. If you thought this guide was useful, be sure to support both the video and the channel. And other than that, I hope you guys enjoy the 1.6 update, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.